Hey ya, hey oh, hi, hey oh, hey, hey ya, hey oh, hi, oh, hey, way oh, hi, oh, hey, way I oh, way I oh, hey oh, hey, way oh, hey oh, hey oh. You told me not to worry, that even though you won't be here with me, you'll count the tears that I cry. And with the rain, you'll show me you're there in the sky. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Hey, hey, oh, hi, oh, hey, 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 oh, hi, oh, hey, way, oh, hi, oh, hey, way, I, oh, way, I, oh, hey, oh, hey, way, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. You told me not to worry, that even though you won't be here with me, you'll count the tears that I cry. And with the rain, you'll show me you're there in the sky. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh.
Wow, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I just want to say thank you to Tiana Spotted Thunder. That's who you heard at the beginning of tonight's show. And as you know, everybody who's in the know, everybody who's watching our show, everybody who's maybe caught all or pieces of the last 11 episodes or 10 episodes, tonight is Cut to the Chase number 11, and we are grateful. We are blessed to be with you all this evening. As you all know who pay attention, we do this show every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 4 Pacific, 6 Central, and 7 Eastern. And we usually don't know who our guests are going to be, because we try to be on the cutting edge. We try to, bring you whatever is the latest news, whatever you need to be hearing about. We bring this show to you. It's a live show. When we can, we pre-record guests. We make sure that we're able to deliver to you sort of in uncensored, a very accurate expression of that place where indigeneity meets issues of mainstream importance. So I'm blessed to be able to sit here with you tonight, sharing just a bit of time and space with you this evening. And you could be anywhere else in the world, and you're here with us. There's a lot of you that tune in, and I do thank you for that. I want to begin tonight by saying thank you all for sending your prayers, your words of encouragement, your condolences. It's so good to see everybody tuning in. Like, comment, share. That is the only way that we kind of get the word out about this show, is through organic, authentic, the realest viewers out there. And I do thank you for that. And we just returned from paying our respects to Ladonna Brave Bull. As many of you know, she has walked on. She has begun her spirit journey, and she is the founder of Sacred Stone Camp and also an associate of Sovereign Sisters. It was a glorious day to be able to help the family, her immediate family, but also Ladonna's global water protector family, who came from all over to send Ladonna off, a true queen of everything. We came together to send Ladonna off in a proper way. She has joined her husband Miles, who you see on the screen there. Just, you know, they were like aunties and uncles. Miles ran a sweat lodge in the community that I grew up in. I've been slow roasted by Miles multiple times and had to call for the door multiple times because I just had to crawl out of there and stay alive. You know what I'm saying? And Ladonna, she would always have food ready at the end of the sweat. And I never, you know, there was a lot of us, and she fed all of us every single time. And not once did I think that to appreciate how above and beyond they were going, because this was, you know, when we were younger, and we just kind of took those things for granted. And I do want to thank everybody for sharing their intentions with Ladonna and her family. I want to thank the Red Rum Motorcycle Club, Cliff Matthias, everybody else who came through. I believe they're called Spirit Riders. I can't remember everybody who was there, the different motorcycle clubs that escorted Ladonna to her final resting place, right by what is called the Red Man, and it overlooks Sacred Stone Camp, and it overlooks Oceti. And Oceti, no Dapple, Standing Rock will live on in our hearts and in our minds forever. And that fight just continues to go down. I mean, Dapple is still laying as a trespass and as an act of aggression against not only the Oceti Sakowin or the Sioux Nation, but everybody who values clean water and healthy ecosystems. But I do want to get on with the show. Just a quick update about what we will cover tonight. First, I know many of you have seen that there was attempted for a very short time an Anglo-Saxon caucus, sometimes also called America First Caucus. These are all kind of the lackeys and the people who are still clinging on to Trump's coattails there. But secondly, we also want to welcome a very special guest tonight. His name is Derek Hinkey. He'll be on in just a few minutes here, so stay tuned for that. But he is from Fort McDermott, that is Paiute Shoshone homelands. And, you know, they're just like how our people up here in the Northern Plains are kind of, they split us up into these different, what are called reservations now. But Derek is joining us from Fort McDermott tonight. And there, if you haven't heard about Thacker Pass, we're going to get to that in the show. And after Derek and I discuss Thacker Pass, we're going to talk a little bit about what went down with George Floyd's murderer, and that is Derek Chauvin. As you know, he has been found guilty, and we kind of are able to breathe again that sigh of justice, knowing that somebody who murdered an unarmed black man is going to face justice. Now, we don't know what that means. He's still got to get sentenced. So the judge could give him, 3 years on a suspended sentence or whatever. He might not have to do any jail time or prison time. We don't know that. But he was found guilty. Minneapolis made the right decision there. But at the same time, in Ohio, young girl named Micaiah Bryant was shot and killed. And so we want to update you about that. And lastly, Brother Shaun King is, well, it always seems he's under attack, but this one claiming that he's worth $3 million and trying to like attack him because of that. I just felt like, you know what? I've seen Shaun just be the target and in the hot seat and be attacked over and over again for a multitude of issues. So I want to speak with you all about that a little bit tonight, and that will kind of round out the show. And I'm very excited because we didn't know, I barely heard about Thacker Pass. And so all that lithium mining that is going down up near Fort McDermott and the Duck Valley Reservation. And I don't want to announce that, another guest might be joining us from Duck Valley, but if she shows up, then we will be more than happy to invite her on at that time. And I just want to say thank you to everybody tuning in, even if you just throw it on there that I owe you a phone call. Shout out to Duck there. Yvonne Ito, thank you so much for tuning in. James, Brenda, Liz, I really enjoy this. I take this responsibility seriously. It's no mistake that we have a platform because we worked really, really hard over 9 straight years to make sure that the independent authority, indigenous authorities, can't be ignored. And so I just want to get back into the show. Let's cut right to the Anglo-Saxon ordeal. My Anglo brothers and sisters sometimes be acting a damn fool, and sometimes you need to come get your people. But they tried and failed to create this Anglo-Saxon caucus, and every now and then crazy stuff happens, and our white identifying brothers and sisters make the news in not the best of ways. But this time justice was swift, as you see Representative Green and Getz here on the screen. They've Green, and she, if you remember, she's the one who was kind of just, she was rightfully called out for propounding QAnon conspiracy theories, other Trump conspiracy theories, and she's out there. Let's just say it like that. But she issued a statement already denouncing this Anglo-Saxon caucus, but she also claimed that the liars and psychotic left-wing communists in the media were to blame for this. So she's trying to spin it for suggesting that she had any connection to the caucus or interest in endorsing it. And this is despite her own spokesperson having already said proudly the previous day that the America First Caucus platform, or the Anglo-Saxon Caucus platform, would be announced to the public very soon. And we're encouraged that it lived and died a swift death, but it's clear that the enemy is at our front gates, and they are not stopping. If you remember that CPAC clip, how they're using these not so subliminal Nazi symbolisms, and we have to ask ourselves, is it actually possible to be racist against white people? Some people, some schools of thought say no, that it is not possible because racism derives from the power dynamic that was designed and is executed in this country and enjoyed by those of Anglo-Saxon pedigree or blood quantum. And so there are schools that say we simply cannot be racist because we don't hold control over all the institutions of power, the institutions of law, law enforcement, economics, politics, media. I mean, you name it. I understand why it's impossible for us to be racist against people who identify as white. We also have to ask ourselves, or we're giving the opportunity to ask ourselves, what is white privilege? What does that mean now in our country, in a changing demographic, which will see Anglo-Saxon racists be minoritized, just like how we have been minoritized. We are not minorities, but we are targeted and minoritized. That potential exists, but what people don't understand, if I had to imagine myself as a white identifying person, I would feel guilty and leery and apprehensive about all these black and brown people coming into their majority and fearing that they are going to oppress me, that they are going to subjugate me and do the same thing that I've done to them. So there will come a day when the Asians, we're all going to outnumber those who identify as white or Anglo-Saxons. I almost said Anglo-Saxons. All the Asians, the essays, the Los Indios, the Chicanos, or and they call it Latinx, but Latin ain't got nothing to do with who we are in this hemisphere. But they've been mixed. They were colonized by the Spanish, the Azlanders, the Afro-Indigenous people called Black Americans. Basically, everybody not white, but those who identify as white, again, need not worry, because this is the great experiment envisioned by your forefathers. Only now we're actually renegotiating the social contract in real time in the first instance. We're finally truth telling. We're finally getting live video footage, live evidence of all the racist hate crimes, all of the modern day lynchings that have defined our relationship since genocide and slavery evolved through the 13th Amendment to the racial and working class subjugation that we all experience today. I mean, who owns the land? Who owns all of the businesses? I believe it's 90%, 98% of this country is owned by private hands. My bet is that those are mostly Anglo-Saxon hands. Who owns most of the businesses, most of the homes, all of the lending institutions? Who's in the billionaire class? I mean, they let Jay-Z in. I guess we can celebrate that. But it's the Bill Gateses, the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos. Who's really in that class? Who owns the extractive economies? Who owns the companies that are responsible for the Dakota Access Pipeline or the Thacker Pass lithium mine? Who owns the petrochemical war machine? Who makes those war machines? I guarantee you it's not us, those who've been oppressed, the working class people, regardless of what color you think you are, the working class people, and also those who've been racially subjugated. Those people, the racists in this country, want us to believe that all of a sudden, because white people are simply going to be outnumbered, that the power dynamic is going to shift automatically. And I'm telling you, that's not the case. It's still going to be the red and blue team shaking hands in front of the cameras, whilst stabbing the working class in the back. And this group of congressionals is trying to co-opt working class platforms. They're trying to finish what Trump started, and the rest of the criminals and charlatans in that group. And we're talking lately about Green and Getz. Congresswoman Green was removed from her House committee seats earlier this year for those remarks about that she made, promoting violence, embracing the QAnon conspiracy theory, and espousing racially charged anti-Semitic other conspiracies theories about that. And Getz is currently entangled with 17-year-old girls. But you can see how they're using clever language. I think we have a tweet from Matt Getz, his name is. He's a congressional representative. And you can see from this tweet that they are using clever language. We will end wars. We will stop illegal immigration, and we will promote trade that is fair to the American working class. This is a clever spin that they're doing, and they're trying to usurp the moral authority that comes in who can claim working class or who can claim to be oppressed. All of this cancel culture and political correctness. And think of that when I mention these things. But remember, you can go to Vice to read the entire memo that founded the Anglo-Saxon Caucus, or the America First Caucus. But among the action items in that memo include restricting legal immigration to individuals who can contribute economically. I mean, as if all the migrant workers aren't already doing that on a grand scale, but limit it to people who can contribute economically and those who can show respect for this nation's culture. Those are dangerous words. Those are red flags, because whose culture should those potential immigrants have to show respect for? We need to ask ourselves these questions, and we are in a state of constant flux. We are in an evolution right now. So I want to encourage you, our listeners, to dig in, to strengthen yourselves, inform yourselves, become class conscious, not only voting wise, but being able to take to the streets or to the dusty roads or wherever those front lines are at. Strengthen yourselves, because we are in a 1,000-year war. If we can make it past this century, my relatives. But I wanted to spend some time in calling out the Anglo-Saxon caucus. Like, I can't believe that. And it's just, we need to be talking about that, and we need to be on guard and alert. But I want to pivot to Thacker Pass and the lithium mine. And we just need to talk about what's going on at Thacker Pass. Some of you may know what that is already. North of Elko, Nevada, near Fort McDermott, Paiute Shoshone homelands. You know, there's treaty rights, there's aboriginal or inherent authorities and land rights that are at risk here. There's worker rights, these extractive cultures. When I mentioned before, who really owns those extractive companies who can, you know, engage in multi-billion-dollar projects? We need to take a close look at that, because it's almost like a disease or a parasite or a virus. This apparatus, this big financial extractive war machine that has given the human species a shelf life and continues to expropriate from indigenous nations while exploiting the labor and lives of working people. And lithium is extremely valuable. It's a necessary component, you might call it that. That's certainly how a corporate big green conglomerate would spin it. All of the smartphones, everything in our computer batteries, electric car batteries, it's all lithium based. We even staged a coup in Bolivia to depose Evo Morales in order for that misguided frat boy, fake woke billionaire Elon Musk and others like him to be able to steal lithium from the people of Bolivia, the indigenous people of that country who own that lithium and need to be treated with fairly. Same thing is happening right now near Fort McDermott. Lithium America is a Canadian company. They've obtained permits from the federal government, the Bureau of Land Management, to which is now overseen by Deb Holland, to mine in indigenous territory. And indigenous people and non-indigenous people alike are opposing the mine, this Thacker Pass mine. They've set up a resistance camp, but some of the resistors are facing backlash from their tribal governments, elected officials, even law enforcement. And I don't know if there's private military contractors on the ground right now. But before we bring in Brother Derek Hinkey, who is on Instagram at SugarWolf101, before we bring Brother Derek on to discuss Thacker Pass, I wanted to show a 3-minute video so that you can get a sense of the camp that is on the ground there as we speak. So Control, if we could roll that in, please.
My thoughts is, I don't want to see it get destroyed. My feelings for this place here is I have a lot of positive feelings about that we can put us up to this. My thoughts are this ground to me. From what my how I was brought up into my traditional ways. My parents and my grandparents. They used to tell me never forget where you get where you walk around. Never forget where you come from. Don't ever give it away. You hang on to whatever that you have for as long as you can. And one of the things that they used to tell us is not to give up your Mother Earth. No matter how much money anybody offers you for a piece of land or whatever that they try to offer you, he says never give your Mother Earth up. He says you remember when you get up in the morning, when you go walk around outside, remember what you walk on. He says when you first get up, he says you put your feet on your Mother Earth before you walk. But nowadays, like back in time, I guess they used to tell us never forget to where you walk on is your Mother Earth. But nowadays, we're really so modern ways of we live in the house, so we walk on the floors and things that are made for us. But they also too that they used to tell me never forget where you sit when you're gonna pray. He says when you're gonna sit and pray, he says you sit on our Mother Earth. He says never forget that. So I always remember my teachings. Always remember it. Never did forget it. To this day, I try to do my best to try to be strong when people ask me to do things, and I do my best to my knowledge of whatever little bit that I know how I was brought up, and I try not to give this up, especially my Mother Earth. I don't want to see it destroyed.
Shout out to protectthackerpass.org. Shout out to Myron Dewey, who jumped in the comment section. It's an honor to have you kind of on, brother. We were going to call you up for this very episode, but it looks like we'll have to run it back with you, unless Control Room can somehow send Myron a link to come on the show. But Myron says that this project was pushed through. Those permits from the BLM did not have proper public comment. And everybody who's just now tuning in, we're about to talk about Thacker Pass. We've got Derek Hinkey on the line, and we've also got Dawn Day Manning trying to join. So if we can get her on, we will certainly welcome her on. But I do want to give Brother Derek, who is coming in from Fort McDermott, a chance to just introduce yourself, brother, to our listeners. Anybody who's listening, like, comment, share, please. That's the only way we kind of get out to our audience. But Derek, if you could just introduce yourself and kind of tell how you got involved with Thacker Pass.
Hi, what's going on? My name is Derek Hinkey. I'm from the Fort McDermott Paiute Shoshone tribe. So initially, how I got involved is I have boots on the ground. A lot of my family, my community has been fighting this for a while now. I think I know for a fact prior tribal council was given it a green light. To my understanding, they did not have a full quorum, so whatever they had was illegal. The current council has retracted that statement, and they're against the mine. But at the end of the day, I think this was pushed through. Again, like Brother Myron said, with no public forum. The people didn't know. It just was totally rushed. In collaboration, it was a little suspicious with like the COVID going on and everything's hush hush. That you just pop. Now you got this big huge mine, big corporation here, and they're going to build a mine in your backyard.
How far is Fort McDermott from, the proposed mine site or the protest camps?
It's roughly about 30 to 40 miles.
Okay. And how do you see, the tribal council, are your elections every 2 years, 4 years, or something like that out there?
2 years.
Okay, so things can change very quickly, and I don't know when they're proposing to start the mines, but I do know, if you could talk about, how Thacker Pass and how Lithium America, the Canadian mining company, seems to be causing division and potential even confrontations. I know that is the case at Duck Valley with Don Manning. But if you could talk about the situation that you witnessed and that you went through with your family, I don't think unless you follow Sugar Wolf 101 on Instagram, I was fortunate enough to catch that live feed, brother, and I appreciate that, and I want to encourage our listeners to check out Derek Hinkey's Instagram, Sugar Wolf 101. But because that's how I learned about that things were kind of reaching that level with this lithium mine. It's just like Fond du Lac or even like Pine Ridge on the 70s. They're pitting our own people against each other. But if you could just kind of just elaborate on what happened with that, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah. So initially, what's going on was our council, current council, they're standing behind the people now. We had a petition. We put it before the council, and they've retracted their statement. They're not supporting it. But again, there's various mines trying to move in. There's a gold mine. There's a lithium mine. There used to be a mercury mine there close. And every week we have to have our water tested in the town. So initially what happened was we had a little dust up at one of the council meetings, and I think it was definitely a miscommunication. Some of my family members, some of the community members were having a situation with our elected officials. Words were thrown back and forth. Tribal vice chairman decided that he had enough of the words. He took his hat off in his jacket, and they had an altercation with one of my cousins. A lot of that, like I said, I think it was marred, and it's been cleared up now. It's just a misunderstanding. I think with communication, we've come a long way. Historically, though, our reservation has kind of been torn between families, and pretty sure like a lot of other reservations too. But with communication, the day after that incident, I was lucky enough for the vice chair to give me a call, because the fisticuffs he had was with my cousin, who's more like a brother to me. And he cleared the air, and I was really grateful for that. So now the council has retracted their statement. We're moving forward. And there's a committee from the community, from the Native community. My dad's a vice chair. To my understanding, Eddie Smart is the chairman. And we're really moving forward, I think, in a good way. Like initially it wasn't looking good though, but I think through communication we're moving in the right direction.
Wow, brother, that's so good to hear, because I know that's how things can get worked out, and that's how indigenous nations or indigenous bands, native communities can strengthen themselves and stay connected when these outside forces, they will come in with big money, just like how Tiger Swan did to Standing Rock. I mean, they came and infiltrated and turned people completely against each other and spreading rumors about anybody who was on the resistance side of things. So I'm like, thank you for that update. I was not aware of what happened there, and I followed your Instagram story. And for anybody that's just joining us, we are talking about Thacker Pass. If you want to learn about that, there is a site called protectthackerpass.org. This is Derek Hinkey. He's joining the show tonight from Fort McDermott, and that is one of the homelands, one of the quote-unquote reservations where Paiute Shoshone people are navigating big extractions potential confrontation with the Shoshone Paiute people and everybody there, not just the indigenous people, but those non-indigenous people who took it upon themselves to set up a camp, in which now, we learned from you, Derek, that things are kind of, they're working out, they're getting smoothed out. But I do want to see if we can bring in Dawn Day Manning. She was having issues, whether or not we're going to be able to see and hear her. So Dawn, if obviously we can't see Dawn, but if we could hear you, that would be great.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. So we were just talking about Thacker Pass, and to the extent that you can, could you just introduce yourself and kind of tell your story about how you got involved with Thacker Pass?
Okay, and we're helping another sister our way. We had been in contact with Hinkey and Duranda Hinkey about doing a relay run, a prayer run up there for some time. We tried to get there twice so far, and both times something pretty out of the ordinary and out of the blue here that just stopped everything. So I'm here now and trying to get to that, but I don't know if you wanted me to go into that, or I don't know if I could, as far as what's happening here.
Some of our audience is saying that the audio is really, really choppy, and so we do apologize for that. We don't know what's going on, but I will. We're gonna have to bring her on at a different time, or just. But I learned about Dawn Day Manning's struggles, and so Derek is on Fort McDermott, and Dawn Manning is on Duck Valley, which is just another reservation, a name for another homeland of the Paiute Shoshone people. And her partner, her significant other, they were pulled over by the police in control. I don't know if you have pictures. We should show some pictures of the deadly attack dogs that were used on Dawn Day Manning's significant other, her partner. And we're not able to establish, we're looking for journalists. We can certainly help you with that, Dawn and your partner, to look further into this. But right now she is looking for an attorney to help her out, because we have to be cognizant that those forces that are bringing this lithium mine will deploy private military contractors. They'll cause divisions and put us against each other in any way that they possibly can. And right now on Duck Valley, Dawn Day Manning and her significant other are going through some kind of brutality that we can't get to the bottom of it because it's too soon, but we're definitely going to continue to follow that story and make sure that we can seek the truth in that instance. It looks like Control has brought Dawn Manning back on to try to establish audio contact at least. Dawn, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. Yes. If there's anything that you'd like to add about that situation, you're more than welcome to do that right now.
I just think what you're saying about the divisions and, all of a sudden, all of this police force on our reservation, around 500 stops in one 24-hour period, curfews that we have to stick by, police waiting on the road for us as we approach. Again, like you said, it's still too early, but this is something that we haven't seen before, and excessive force. to the degree that, you know, people are afraid to just on the roads.
Yeah,
My
we
partner,
certainly
he actually,
we certainly you know, the people that tune in, and again, thanks everybody for paying attention to this story, because this is completely important. We can't establish whether or not Don's significant other was brutally attacked by Duck Valley police, some other form of law enforcement, and attack dogs. Show those pictures one more time, please, Control. There is a man who has suffered serious injuries. There is a brutality that took place. Was that justified? We need to get to the bottom of that story. Is it related to Lithium America's project in intruding upon Shoshone Paiute lives, violating their internal peace and causing them to, much like at Standing Rock, we didn't ask for that fight. Like, they laid that in our front door and brought that fight to our children. And so we definitely want to give Don and Derek Hinkey a chance to, Don Manning, again, from Duck Valley, and Derek Hinkey is joining us from the Fort McDermott reservation or nation. And so, Derek, I do want to kick it back to you. If there's anything that you wanted to add that you might have thought of or that we might have missed about what is going on.
Yeah, so I think it needs to be clarified and made clear, especially for the lithium, the project they're trying to bring in. The Fort McDermott Paiute Shoshone tribe, there's so many connections. I have relatives in Duck Valley. I have relatives in Fort Hall, Idaho. I have relatives in Northern California. So we're all kind of related. So at the end of the day, you know, I have family in Pyramid Lake. They're coming up. That whole area, man, like, everybody's got a connection to it. You know, like, we're all connected there in some way. So if they want to do consultation, they shouldn't just do it with McDermott, because there's relatives in Pyramid Lake. You know, at that end of the day, to my understanding, my people were the last to go to the reservation. We don't have a treaty. We have an agreement. My grandmother, Sarah Winnemucca, we didn't have a reservation to go to, so she talked to the government, and that's why it's called Fort McDermott, because it was a soldier's fort. So she got the people to agree to go to the reservation, and that was the reservation she got us. But at the end of the day, it's like a whole bunch of a band, like and it sounds arrogant, but like an empire, a huge empire of people. You know, the Bannocks, the Shoshones, the Paiutes. We're all kind of one big group. We're all one big family, and we ranged on this whole west side. And I think they're not that. I don't think the corporations, I don't think the BLM are really understanding. You can't just put us in a little tiny box and say, okay, well, these guys are from Fort McDermott, we got to talk to them. There's a lot of family from all over that have connections to that area.
You know what? I meant to ask you about that, because I remember driving on I-80 and passing this place called Winnemucca, Nevada. And I did not know that that's your family name. Like, that's your family's name.
Yeah.
And I also know, I think I was in either Reno. I think at Reno. I don't know if the Truckee River goes all the way to Vegas, but you know, people might not know about all the Paiute Shoshone homelands. You mentioned Schurz and Pyramid Lake and these other places. You know, we went through that same process. So if you could just kind of tell some of your your family history, or explain to the people who the Paiute Shoshone people are, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so Chief Truckee was actually Chief Winnemucca's father. And there's just so many stories. There's a book called Sand in the Whirlwind. It talks a little bit about, which again, history don't teach us right. It doesn't teach us exactly real, true history. During the Snake Wars, it was the longest, bloodiest, deadliest battle in U.S. history. It was guerrilla skirmishes for I think it lasted 4 years. And there's so many stories like my family has about, like, Jim Winnemucca, who was only 12 years old, and he was battling with the soldiers and they couldn't shoot him, he would ride around them and tease them, and they would shoot him, and he would come back. And to show the people to raise their spirits, he would come and he would shake his shirt out, and the bullets would fall out. And that inspired and led the people. It showed them that we're gonna do this. But I think at the end of the day, like, why is that not told? Like, there's a lot of kids that grow up, and me, like, I'm a pro athlete, I'm a pro fighter. But I never, growing up, I never had, like, Superman, Spider-Man, they don't look like me, but I always knew, I had real heroes, real flesh and blood heroes, like Chief Winnemucca, Jim Winnemucca, Namaga. Those are real flesh and blood heroes. And I think at the end of the day, especially for my region and all in indigenous country, like, we have our heroes, and they're flesh and blood, man. They're like Crazy Horse, Geronimo. I could go on and on and on. Like, if you want to know, go talk to your grandma or your grandpa, like, ask your uncles, they'll tell you, like, those are real heroes. And I think that's where we have to re-identify with our roots and really know who we are, like, instead of the, and I mean, I understand everybody's got their pain or whatnot, but focus on your power, man. Focus on what you have. Focus on what's good in your life and what your strengths.
Bro, I appreciate that 100. That story you just told about bullets falling out of the shirt, that's the power of indigenous medicine, and that is real life. We're dealing with real life superheroes in our lineage, and so we need to come at it from a place of power. And I do thank you for sharing that that knowledge. That's not history. That's where you're at. That's where we're at. We also received the ghost dance from a Paiute prophet, and so our stories are interlinked. We were able to somehow, for the first time in our show's history, be joined by a brother or a person who was logged onto the show, and then we mentioned him and see if he was available, and that is Myron Dewey from Digital Smoke Signals. And Derek, I know you were probably at Standing Rock. I didn't get to cross paths with you, but I crossed paths with Myron, and I just wanted to welcome you on. Myron, thank you for being available 100%. I saw your comment about the comment period not being appropriate, and that maybe the Shoshone Paiute people weren't able to weigh in appropriately by that time. But anything that you would like to share, based on what you've been hearing about Thacker Pass and other struggles that you might be working on, it's an honor to have you on, brother.
Hamane, want to say hello to my relatives out there speaking and standing strong. Inania, a whole bunch of Nami, and Agaitika, and Naman, Paiute and Tamok Shoshone. And I just want to acknowledge, my brothers coming on, my sister coming on. Our Paiute people have been in this fight in different arenas in the military-industrial complex. 62 years. And Fort McDermott is part of that. Walker Paiute tribe is between two military bases where we have witnessed in our lifetime the loss of our food source, our trout in our lake, from the bombing in the lake. We go back into what did we learn from Standing Rock? Blackwater and militia and the mercenaries train over in Hawthorne, Nevada. They bomb in our lake, in our homelands. They bomb in the first atomic bomb in these areas. And Nevada is full of mining. And the first, I think, global impact we've seen in the environment came from the 550 cords of wood a day being burned in Virginia City, the Comstock load. So we've witnessed the environmental change, loss of food source. We witnessed Western contacts, gradual encroachment that they used against the Dan sisters is a legal term for the stealing and theft of the land. So the intellectual manipulation that our ancestors went through, we can now articulate. And for the last 2 years, we've been watching Thacker Pass, and coming back from Standing Rock. When it was first brought to my attention, the issue was Tesla has moved in, and they moved in for a reason. They moved in so they did not have to transport lithium. And from that point on, my goal was to find out where they're going to transport it from. And it's Thacker Pass is one of the areas. The other lithium mine is down there by Tonopah, and then we have different ones around the United States. So these are you follow the money is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And, trying to articulate that not many of our relatives or our tribal leaders get to sit at World Bank power, as we've seen at the Dakota Access Pipeline. They had 17 world banks funding this pipeline, as the Mitsubishi Bank is one of them out in Japan that we went and visited. You got to follow the money. And our lands, they have been profiting off our lands. They know our weaknesses. They know that not all of our people are on the same page. As we've seen at Standing Rock, it was our own people that were the infiltrators, the instigators, and the agitators, all of them. And so we have to be mindful of that. Also, being colonized or indoctrinated or assimilated comes with a price of being disconnected from the sacred. They disconnect us from our food source, our water, our sacred sites, our traditional harvesting areas. This is the result of not finding out until these projects are already being dug in the ground. Well, we've been following this for a while because we've been trying to protect our traditional harvesting areas with our pine nuts. So there's so much that comes at us in Nevada, but also, the conquer and divide part is by offering jobs through our own tribal council to our tribal members. And they got to take care of themselves. We're in an area where there's no jobs. We're grant dependent. And the solution may seem like a short, fast one with this money, but this pandemic brought in a whole different animal. Like my tribe and many other tribes, we were on lockdown. So you had to be extra vigilant on how these policies and procedures are being done without tribal input, like without us even realizing that we're participating in hypocrisy. And so there's a lot of learning, Chase, and I appreciate you guys jumping on this because it's starting to snowball. My goal is to help articulate some of the issues that I witnessed and went through at Standing Rock, which was, I think as a historical trauma trainer, the lateral violence and bullying that can happen, the ego involved, what happens when big money gets brought in, donations, and, being able to do proper coverage from an indigenous perspective. And our allies that are helping up there and pushing forward, I shared with them that we need allies as support for the front line, because in Nevada, it's no different than Bismarck when it comes to the Sheriff's Association.
Right.
And that's what we're going to see is privatizing the local law enforcement to protect this mine, and also BLM and Forest Service. They're privatized. And they don't work with the tribes. They don't work with the tribal governments. And so we find out late after the project's already being started and pushed through. But we also have the military industrial complex that is expanding. And they were trying to expand over sacred sites out in Walker River and Pyramid Lake, and also in the Shoshone territories. So we all got to work together. But, as you know, when it comes from grassroots, this has got to come out of your own pocket. You've got to show up early. You also got to be able to articulate the Western law and forked tongue and their policy and indoctrinated language, meaning manifest destiny, and their policies and how it works today. And so these are the challenges here in Nevada. By the time they got done in New York, and by the time they got through into the Midwest, and then they got to us, in their eyes, they knew how to deal with the Indian problem pretty fast. And as we got the Stewart Indian Boarding School, really fresh in Carson City, Nevada, those policies are still strong. Those old ways of thinking in the cowboy area and the local towns, the reservation, the Indians stay on the reservation, they're still strong there. As in, just these small things I'm sharing with you, they're still here today, such as the bell that goes off over in Gardnerville, Nevada for the Indians to get back to the reservation. Wow. It's now a historical sound. So we got a lot of re-educating to do, but also to empower our people to have the courage and the strength to stand together and to know when intellectual manipulation is being imposed on us.
Myron, again, if you're just tuning in, Myron Dewey of Digital Smoke Signals, look him up on Twitter, check out Digital Smoke Signals on Facebook. He has joined us in real time, impromptu. And I used to hang with him outside Ladonna Brave Bull Allard's, and at the beginning of the show we paid tribute, and at the end of last show we paid tribute. Derek Hinkey He's on Instagram at sugarwolf101. If you're just now tuning in, if you're just now getting a sense of Thacker Pass, I didn't hear about Thacker Pass till just recently. So like, comment, and share. If you have questions for Myron or Derek, put them in the comments, but share the stream. We can go on for, we don't want to keep you for forever or for longer than you want to be on. But Derek was explaining how, there was a bit of a division at Fort McDermott, and then people talked it out, and things are beginning to shift where people will support the resistance, and the brothers Will Falk and Max Wilbert, who are up behind protectthackerpass.org. But Derek, I want to give you a chance to weigh in if there's any like upcoming events. I know you were posting about on your Instagram about a spiritual run. If there's any events or anything that we need to be paying attention to, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of speak on those things.
Yeah, so this weekend, this coming Sunday, we're having a run. It's going to be ran by my cousin Dean Barley's from Timber Lake. So some of the relatives, in conjunction with the Brown Berets, setting that up. I believe it starts at 10. Again, I'll have more information here by tonight up on it on my Instagram or Facebook, whatever works. Also, you can tune in to Duranda Hinkey. She should be able to update you. Or go to the protectthackerpass.org, and just stay active. And, I think it's always evolving and growing. And I'm grateful for, again, like I said, the eyes and ears you guys are generating that direction.
Okay. Well, so this Saturday, check out, to follow the developments on that, go to Derek Hinkey's Instagram. And I don't have any kind of problem, just like, you brothers are courageous enough to put yourself out there, just like how I was back in the day. We all take that step as Indigenous peoples. There's a fine line of too much self-promotion, which, yeah, I've been guilty of that before. But also, if you're willing to step out there, we got to lift each other up. We got to promote each other, because the mainstream just isn't going to cover us the way we need to be covered. So I want to shout out Digital Smoke Signals and Sugarwolf101. And by the way, that's the most clever little handle I've seen in a while. So that's Derek's Instagram, and it's probably on his Facebook too. But Myron, if there's anything that you wanted to add, maybe just you can give us an update on what you've been working on. What have you been up to for the past couple weeks or months or whatever.
I was working on a project way before Standing Rock, which was protecting the sacred back home and protecting our traditional harvesting areas. They were corporate extraction of our pine nut hills, as well as the copper mines around Schurz, which is in a Superfund site near into Nevada, called the Anaconda Mine, and the military industrial complex expansion coming through Walker River, Fallon, Nevada, down to Lovelock and Pyramid Lake with the bombing range they were trying to push through. We're really hoping that with Deb in there, that we'll be able to have that support in protecting those areas. And right now, just in support of Thacker Pass and our relatives over there, and just sharing knowledge the best way I can without going too thin. And I think what's important is that we need to share this through Indigenous eyes, what is happening in our own homelands. And that's my goal, is to just help in community journalism training for them, and helping our relatives articulate what we're protecting, and protecting the sacred, and protecting this through Indigenous eyes and media when we're on the ground. And that it's not about us, it's about what we're protecting and what's coming their way, and just helping guide and getting media out to corporate media through Indigenous eyes, through local media through Indigenous eyes, and just preparing them on what's coming their way and what is already there when we're talking about the military industrial complex in our areas, trying to protect our homelands. And trying to do it in a good way, and with Pijan and Ishtahai, Pijan and Mashinami, good thoughts, good words, and then Pijak Dumia in a good way.
Oh, appreciate that. So everybody, you have to kind of dig a little deeper, because Thacker Pass, from the Indigenous perspective, the Indigenous front, that is still developing. How tribal nations and indigenous peoples are going to interact with and interface with the protest camp that is currently up. And so, Derek, I want to give you a chance if you have anything that we missed, any closing thoughts. You have to go to Sugar Wolf 10. You literally got to go to these brothers' Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitters and to follow the development of the story. And Don Day Manning, what happened to Don's significant other is unacceptable. I don't know what happened there, but I remember it's just like at Standing Rock, September 3rd, 2016, deadly attack dogs used on indigenous people. So, Derek, if you have any closing comments or anything that you might have left out or we might have left out, we want to give you the space to kind of speak on that.
Yeah, so I think I want to go back, and I think a lot of especially in my area, you know, like you said earlier, and Brother Myron also said, Nevada is a huge place for mining. It's massive, right? So we have some native people that are in the mining industry, and I'm not throwing shade on anybody. I'm trying to guilt trip nobody. Don't get it twisted here, but I feel like a lot of times when you're raping and pillaging the land and the earth, it's you've broken your connection. You know, like what kind of Indian are you? You know, and again, like I'm saying this, and I don't mean to throw no shade on nobody. I got family that does work for the mines, and I'm just asking them to, you know, reconnect with who you are and your roots. A leaf on a tree cannot exist without its roots. And at the end of the day, during the daytime, you know, like you're raping and pillaging the earth, and then when it's time for a powwow, you're gonna dress up and go dance and sing. What kind of Indian are you really? You know, at the end of the day, like I think those questions, you're more. Everybody has a moral compass, and there's a voice inside of you, and that voice ain't always gonna tell you what you should do, but that voice will tell you what you shouldn't be doing. And I think a lot of them need to listen to that voice.
Thank you for that, brother. That's dang. Myron, if there's anything that you might have left out, I want to give you an opportunity just for some closing comments. But first of all, thank you so much for hopping on. And I was able to see that comment and said, hey, man, send Myron a link. Let's see if we can get him on. Derek, thank you so much as well. But Myron, if you have any closing comments.
You know, these mining areas, you know, are harvesting our medicines, our traditional medicines that it's harder for us to get access to anymore. And some of our relatives aren't using them or don't know how. And reconnecting to our culture and our language through our matriarchy, through our songs, through our language, and these areas, you know, I've been fortunate to be all over those mountains when I was firefighting, all the way back to Oregon, Utah, Colorado, Washington, all over Nevada, and be a part of that and protecting in a good way. And I just want to say to my relatives out there, you know, is we need your help to articulate this. We need to show each other compassion to this. And I've created a different compassion for my relatives. I mean, I've been attacked. I've been helped. I've had people come and send medicine, people to pray for us, bring me medicine, water from a long ways away and on the other side of the world. And I've been able to see things that some of our people haven't seen. And so I have a little bit more compassion, and I understand why the loss of land, loss of language, forced loss of dignity, indoctrination, and through colonization, and how it's been intellectually weaponized. And we are in the stages of globalization, as we're seeing with the internet and lithium. We are participating in the hypocrisy to protect our lands. And that is what it's going to be. But I want to help them in articulating why we are protecting the sacred, why we're protecting our land. Even though we don't live there, or we're able to harvest the way we should on the land has been contaminated. We no longer can drink our surface water like in Schurz or in Reno or in Pyramid Lake. Yerington can't even drink the first aquifer in their water, the Yerington Paiute tribe. So we have to show each other compassion and help them, because they don't know. They don't know. And we put my uncle, you know, to rest a few months ago, and he was one of the last little boys that was kidnapped, taken to the Stewart boarding school. And he shared that story, you know, and his language and culture was strong. But we're missing that. And I just want to share that with you guys. Is I have a deeper compassion when our relatives treat me a certain way, whether it was hard teachings or kindness. I really respect that. And when it comes those hard teachings from my close relatives, then I really listen. And I have a deeper meaning on what it means to protect those that can't protect themselves, the most vulnerable. And that's what we're out there trying to do and help. So I just want to say that. Thank you, brothers, for coming on and sharing. And thank you, brother. Keep us updated on what's happening in your homelands over there. We're here to support and do what we can. And those who can't, we need to give them guidance on how to support, whether it's mass, whether it's send Sarupi, pilot season's coming up, whether it's to send fish from Pyramid Lake. Pyramid Lake's the last of the food source for us, for our Agaitica eaters, trout eaters. Schurz has no more fish in Walker Lake, Agaipa. It's all gone, 100% of the fish. And so is the Pugwaitica over there. There's no more smaller fish all near Mount Grant. So we're witnessing this in real time change. And Walker Lake, Walker River, we can't drink any of the surface water there. So have compassion for us. Our people don't know. And we have to empower them to be empowered and empower their spirit. And that sacred fire we brought back from Standing Rock, that we got to witness. We want to bring that to our people.
If any of the people in the comments, everybody in the comments is asking if any of you want to say any word of blessing or anything like that before you guys outro. And I just wanted to open that up to you, that you don't have to feel obligated, but people are obviously connecting with what you guys are laying down, because it's very real. We have to strengthen our connections to sacred sites and to Mother Earth, to the land that birthed us. And so if either of you are open to that, I just want to throw that back out there. You're getting a lip point, Derek.
Go ahead, Myron. You're good at that.
I just keep praying your own way. If you're a tree hugger, hug that tree. If you're Catholic, Mormon, whatever way you pray in your own way. I just say Pija Nama Yadawa, good thoughts, good words.
Oh.
Nishta Hadiapa, Nishta Hapahibipa, our water, our drinking water. Pija Tumia, to go in a good way.
How? Appreciate that. So if you're just tuning in, or if you've been with us, that is just a special evening. This is Derek Hinkey from Fort McDermott on Instagram at SugarWolf101. People were asking for your guys' how to keep up with you after you jump off the show here, and you're more than welcome to come back. We'll just plan it out. Myron, we've been meaning to get a hold of you. All what you got going on with media out there, we support that 100, and Derek will find a way to link up as well. So Myron is at Digital Smoke Signals, and Derek is at SugarWolf101 on Instagram. Catch him on there. We, like I said, there's a fine line between indigenous peoples who are influencers because they're working up towards that, and people who are just because of what you do. People are going to follow that too. So thank you for being brave like that, brothers. I appreciate that 100%. Our young people need to see that it's all good. So we'll do this again, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Chase.
I hope. Wow, that was very. We've never done that before. I'm so thankful Derek was able to jump on with us. Derek Hinkey again, SugarWolf101 on Instagram. And then Myron, Don Day Manning was also on for a time, but we were just having problems with the audio and the visuals. It's all good. Thank you all for staying with us. More and more people are able to view what you're viewing and participate in what you're participating in, because you're liking, you're commenting, and you're sharing. And I appreciate people like Radley Davis, who's sending solidarity to Fort McDermott and Myron Dewey, to the Shoshone Paiute people from Pitt River. In Pitt River, they're fighting to protect the sacred Sat Titla, and I don't want to butcher that, Obsidian Knife Lake. Look up Pitt River, also known as Medicine Lake Highlands, against industrial geothermal and other developments near Mount Shasta. And Mount Shasta is one of those places that's always, there's another fine line that I've been walking with the Rainbow Cats, the Rainbow family, and New Agers, everybody that is trying to wake up and graduate from the colonial programming that was instigated against, people of European descent, white people, Indians, you might want to call it that, but they're always focusing on Mount Shasta because it's very high spiritual reception, just like those places that Derek and Myron were talking about out there in Paiute Shoshone country, just like right here in Oceti country, the Black Hills, Bear Butte, and so forth. So I want to thank Radley Davis for that comment. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, if you're just joining us, we just finished an amazing dive into Thacker Pass and everything that's going on up there. Myron Dewey from Digital Smoke Signals and Derek Hinkey from at SugarWolf101 on Instagram. So I do appreciate your comments, and please share the stream. As always, we appreciate what you do to make this possible, to make this happen. I want to pivot to, we just went through Derek Chauvin's trial. We were waiting on pins and needles before the verdict was announced. I remember thinking, we're going to riot. Minneapolis is going to be on fire again if they let Derek Chauvin murder George Floyd with no consequence. And fortunately, they made the right decision in convicting Derek Chauvin. But at the very same time, within 30 minutes of each other, Ma'Khia Bryant, a young 15 or 16-year-old Black girl in, I believe it's Columbus, Ohio, was shot by a white police person. And I know that it sounds like all the time we're playing the race card, but this is our reality. I talk a lot on this show about the power dynamic over time. And I do appreciate everyone's grace and patience, because I do know that a lot of the people that I've built bridges with over the last 9 years are not Native people. They're not Indigenous people. They're not in that oppressed demographic. These are white brothers and sisters who were taught since they were babies that they're white. And that is not a fact, but that kind of racial subjugation is real. But those white brothers and sisters who are confronting white nationalism, who realize that white people trying to create an Anglo-Saxon caucus in Congress to appear like they are now oppressed, or that there's some sort of reverse racism being inflicted on them or instigated against them. Those of my white brothers and sisters, and even the cats in the control room, thank you for sticking with us and being committed to Mother Earth liberation and stamping out racism once and forever. But we've got to talk about Blue Lives Matter. I mean, what we saw during Derek Chauvin's trial was Dante Wright was also murdered in Minneapolis. Seems to be the epicenter of Black Lives Matter. And the fact that in Columbus, Ohio, when young Ma'Khia Bryant was murdered, that cop said Blue Lives Matter, almost as if to provoke or to prod those who were around her that what he did was justified. And her situation is not crystal clear. I mean, they claim she had a knife. I don't know if we have that video ready or if we want to roll it. You know what I mean? I always get flagged for sensitive content by Facebook. It's like I'm getting censored for just speaking, giving you an accurate depiction of what we're facing. But it appeared that she had like a kitchen knife and she was being attacked by some people. And then the cops show up and then they shot her 5 times. And it's I would suggest that you go watch that video. but we just wanted to say her name because this is beginning to unravel. And the Blue Lives Matter crowd is the same white nationalist crowd, the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers, all these guys that went and killed people in the United States Capitol. And hopefully some of them are being brought to justice. But we're in a situation where we're awaiting Derek Chauvin's sentencing. And so we'll continue to speak about these things, even though they're hard to talk about. It's hard to confront our legacy, our history, our shared controverted history based on racism, slavery, and genocide. But those of you who are still here confronting it, we are going to win. This is our country. We cannot forget that. And I just want to finish the show. Thank you for sticking with us. We always go overtime, but as long as you're here listening, I've got just a brief closing. Shaun King. Some of you know who Shaun King is. Some of you only heard rumors. Maybe you only see things that are printed by people like Breitbart News or the Daily Beast. And if you count yourself in that crew, then you will know that Shaun King is being smeared. He's continuously being smeared. He is a stalwart advocate for justice, for equality. He's a voice not only within the Black community, but of the mainstream chorus in the arc of justice that we're trying to bend in our favor as we confront these issues. You know, every time a cop has killed an unarmed person of color, Shaun was there to shine light on it, whether it was through his Twitter or back in the day when he was just writing on Huffington Post, now on his podcast, The Breakdown, or with the North Star. And I see him being smeared, being targeted. He's being targeted for not being Black enough, not being Black at all. But they're basically trying to Rachel Dolezal this brother, saying that he's not Black at all or that he's not Black enough. Shaun had to go into his personal family history and talk about how there was an affair, and that's how he came into his Blackness. He's literally having to defend against things that nobody is asked to defend against. He's being targeted by former employees who say that he was exploiting the labor of women and people in the LGBTQ community, even though today he employs 40 people in those organizations that I mentioned, the North Star, the Breakdown podcast, any other thing that he's associated with. And you might be asking, why would Chase Iron Eyes be out here caping for Shaun King? You know, what are we missing here? And I have to tell you that Shaun has helped out Indian country tremendously. And I'll get to that in a minute. But Shaun King, I want to talk about the North Star. The North Star is the old abolitionist origin newspaper, literal writings when slaves, African indigenous slaves, were learning the English language, teaching themselves how to read. Frederick Douglass was trading bread for the English word, and people were starting to liberate themselves and become conscious. That's when the North Star started. So Shaun King and a brother named Benjamin Dixon launched this multimedia reboot of the North Star, which was started by Frederick Douglass. And that happened last February. It was celebrated across social media by people like Susan Sarandon. You know, she's kind of an acquaintance or friend of mine who also finds herself being attacked by the Breitbarts of the world, and Michael Eric Dyson. They who I respect 100. I've been paying attention to Michael Eric Dyson and Tavis Smiley. I'm just trying to think of something came into my mind about a show that I watched long ago, and they helped us, give us the language to work with and deconstruct our own situation. But anyhow, the North Star, it said, they said on Twitter that they had angel investors, 30,000 subscribers contributing between $5 and $10 per month, and subscribers who were giving at those levels. The angel investor levels included Sigourney Weaver, Brene Brown, and Black billionaire philanthropist Robert Smith, who gave $10,000 a month. And anyway, they added up, they sat down and did the math and said how much money is coming into the North Star, coming into Shaun King's periphery. And I have to ask, why aren't we breaking down how much money is coming into Breitbart or Steve Bannon or CNN or Fox News? Like, why can't brothers and sisters get money? Why do we have to dig into Shaun's life like this? It's because he's gaining traction. He's being called a grifter. And part of it is, I've also gone through this. I've been called a grifter. They say that he traffics in black brutalization, that he's being accused of being worth $3 million. And you know what? I hope Shaun King is worth $3 million and much more than that, because he shows up for our struggles. He takes it upon himself to enter into those very controversial spaces. And and I am out here speaking on it because he showed up for our crew, for Indigenous country, when No DAPL happened, when Kelsey Warren and Donald Trump were instigating violence and trespasses and treaty violations against us. We reached out to Shaun King, and he was one of the reasons we were able to continue the ground struggle beyond December 4th. He shared our fundraiser, and we were able to keep people warm. We were able to keep people alive. Shout out to everybody who was on the supply crew at that time. And I won't mention you by name, but I sincerely appreciate everything that you gave during No DAPL. And it was because Shaun King stepped up and created an alliance with us. Shaun King also offered to pay for any shortcomings that would have existed in Auntie Ladonna Brave Bull Allard's funeral. And I understand that it wasn't needed, and that's fine. But Shaun King is out there paying attention, trying to help. And we have to ask ourselves, what level of internalized oppression, colonizer thinking, has invaded us when we are so willing to pull each other down? I mean, we're basically doing COINTELPRO 2.0's work at this point. If you've ever in a situation where you're asked to help the most oppressed, the most subjugated, the most violently violated, it's a hard thing to do, especially when we know we kind of came up in scarcity culture. So I'm in that same place where when a native is shot dead, I want to go and help. But the family sometimes feels like you're trafficking in their suffering. You're trafficking in brutality, in the loss of life suffered by that family. And we are only trying to help. And to be quite honest, I don't have any, just my heart bleeds when something like that happens. And so I can't not help. But I've been very, very careful not to step in and take up space or be targeted for this kinds of stuff, because people think that we're making millions off of these struggles. So it's very difficult to work in these spaces to help where it's needed most. It's like we're on a constant tightrope. And I've been accused many times of stealing money, just the way that the Daily Beast keeps going after Shaun King. And I just want people to pause for a minute, because I've also been accused of stealing money since Pesh Law. You know, when our iteration of land back happened in 2012, in 2013, I've been accused of being a charlatan. I've been accused of stealing money from heating the res from my own people. I've been accused the same thing at Standing Rock. Each time it's like that those forces activate to come in further that division, that rumor mongering, and that gossiping. And I just want to send words of strength, words of encouragement to Shaun King, anybody out there who's facing these challenging situations. Just keep showing up, stay strong, blihichiayo. You know, I wanted to just give a shout out tonight and tell you how Shaun showed up for Standing Rock. He showed up for No Dapple, and it was because of him that we were able to continue that on the ground struggle. And so I wanted to say about that much. And I want to thank, you know, just going back to thanking Derek Hinkey, Myron Dewey, and Don Day Manning. They're all from, Derek is from Fort McDermott, Paiute Shoshone homelands. Don Day is from Duck Valley. And I didn't want to, there's a lot of trauma with you know, her auntie, who was John. Somebody mentioned John Trudell in the comment section. And when John Trudell burned the American flag, which is universally recognized as protectable free speech now, when he did it in Washington, D.C., outside the headquarters of the FBI, his whole family was killed. And I don't want to just be talking about that because it's you know, I'm on the show and I'm able to talk about it. That is like unimaginably traumatic and horrific. And so that is the kind of things that the potential for that kind of animosity and division obviously exists. That potential exists out there because of Lithium America, because of somebody causing these threats of violence, these potential confrontations. The same thing happened in Fond du Lac by Line 3. Natives were fighting natives, stepping up and calling out other natives, trying to fight, trying to go blows. And if you followed what happened on Pine Ridge in the 70s, we have not healed from those wounds. COINTELPRO basically executed a maybe 2-year running massacre where between 70 and 100 people, my family included, there are people who know where those bodies are buried. We lost family. We lost blood during that time. Former U.S. Attorney Brendan Johnson tried to open up an investigation into the FBI, into COINTELPRO, because believe me, the colonizer wants us to continue to blame each other, come at each other and tear each other down. That is not an accident. That is a deliberate plan of forced dependency and just taking away our ability to trust each other, to trust ourselves, trust our own knowledge, our own understanding, our own thinking. And so I wanted to end the show talking about what's going on with Brother Shaun King, because he's getting attacked from many different ways. And I want to thank you all for paying attention. Seriously, it's been a long show. We have launched a podcast. If you search wherever you listen to podcasts, just look for Cut to the Chase. And yet there's probably about 10 other podcasts out there called Cut to the Chase, but Cut to the Chase Iron Eyes, or just search Chase Iron Eyes. You should be able to find the podcast. And we're looking to do some creative things with that. And we have some advertisers and sponsors who are finally showing up. And I say finally, but this is 10 weeks strong. And we're like the little team that could. You know, that we don't have a big giant staff or people who are producing individual segments. Like, I'm sitting here at the last minute writing the script, deciding what we're going to talk about on the show tonight. So when you tune in, you're literally getting a live show. I mean, Derek was he was able to join us before the show, Derek Hinkey, but we couldn't get Don on, and somehow Myron showed up from the comment section, because people like you are out there sharing the stream and commenting. We're able to pick things up. And if you have suggestions for us, we just want to invite you to kind of contact us, make connections with us, and let us know what you think. But again, I want to say thank you. from the beautiful sacred Black Hills, we broadcast or we webcast Cut to the Chase every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Mountain. Somebody was asking about, do you have a regular schedule? We do, but you got to kind of be in the know. At this point, you're 10 weeks deep, and for some reason, we never know who's going to be on the show. So our partner at Indigenous Peoples Movement can't make the flyer soon enough. So 5 p.m. Mountain Time every Wednesday. If we deviate from that, we'll let you know by a flyer. But again, thank you all for listening in. Thank you to our main sponsor. Right now, our flagship sponsor is Lakota People's Law Project, but we also webcast through Last Real Indians and through my personal sites or my public like pages. But we couldn't do what we're able to do without the sponsorship of Lakota People's Law Project. So big up, big respect to all the work that our sponsors carry out. But again, this has been Cut to the Chase number 11. Thank you for making it real. Lila Wopila Tanka Ichichapalo. And we are out.